Sure, the Detroit Lions are probably the best team that the Cincinnati Bengals will have played through 5 weeks this season, but it can't get worse, right? Right?
You are Locked On Bengals, your daily Cincinnati Bengals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What up, Bengals fans, and welcome to another episode of the Locked On Bengals podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Jake Lisco. He's your host, James Rapine. We've been covering your Cincinnati Bengals here on Locked On Bengals since 2016, providing you with that one-stop shop you need for all things Cincinnati Bengals. Today, we dive into the Bengals matchup with the Detroit Lions, which looks like an uphill battle for this team, but we need to see signs of progress, signs of adjustment, signs of functional NFL team on both sides of the ball from the Cincinnati Bengals, even if it is the hardest team that they will have played against through 4 games in this season. We'll get into that game in this episode. This episode brought to you by Mazda. When you make every move count, pulling off the unexpected is only the beginning. Stay tuned later for highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward. Mazda, move and be moved. And boy, do I hope the Bengals do something unexpected this week, James. I think that needs to start with what we expected last week, which is, can Jake Browning find a way to get these studs the Bengals have at their weapons going? The offensive line wasn't great last week, but there were plays to be made that Jake Browning left on the field. And when you look at Jamar Chase's historic performance with Jake Browning going back to 2023, Browning has never made the most of having Jamar Chase on the football field. And that's where we start again this week. For 2 weeks in a row now, we're sitting here talking about got to find a way to make the big dollar players help you if you're the Bengals.
Because he's their best player. Like, it's some things are just so damn obvious and they should happen. And that's the frustration all week long with Jake Browning. For me, like, I know the offensive line isn't great. I know there was a bunch of penalties. I know that you're playing tough defenses. I get all of that. But guess what? Jamar was open a ton last week. And now, and we covered it in the crossover yesterday, he's going up against the secondary that's nicked up, that's banged up, that doesn't have Patrick Surtain the second. And so he should be open again. And Jake Browning better be able to get him the ball. This should be a 12 to 15 catch performance for Jamar Chase. Doesn't mean that they're going to score a bunch of points. Doesn't mean that they're going to have 7 scoring drives and the really long sustainable drives. But if he has that kind of activity, there's going to be a big play or two. And this offense hasn't had big plays. They're the worst offense in the NFL at producing big plays right now. That should be impossible with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. That should be impossible with an explosive running back like Chase Brown. But let's dial it all the way back. And I'm not even going to say, oh, well, they need to find a way to run the ball, even though they do. Bare minimum, number one, better get the ball. Number one, better be a big part of your game plan where if he's running across Jake Browning's face, Jake throws it to him. And Jake Browning senses that number one needs touches, especially early, because that's your best chance. You get your best guy involved early and you give him a chance to get into a rhythm with the quarterback. And that's it. That's your best player. And your best player, especially going up against these premier teams that have a ton of high-end players, it's really tough to survive without getting Jamar involved early, often, and we'll see if they can do it. And look, the coaches are going to say, well, we always try to do that. Jake is obviously going to say the same thing. Whatever. Do it. Do it. It is that simple. It's that cut and dry for me this week. Jamar Chase needs double-digit catches. We talk about PrizePicks. We have PrizePicks on here multiple times a week. It better be more than on his receptions. And I haven't checked his receptions number, Jake, but it better be with the more than whatever that is, because if it's not, then I think that Jake Browning and this offense has likely failed.
When Jake Browning went 4-2, or sorry, not counting the Pittsburgh game, 4-2 in games that Jamar Chase started, 4-3 overall for the Cincinnati Bengals as a quarterback in 2023. Jamar Chase played in 6 of those games. Like I said, he didn't play against the Pittsburgh Steelers in Week 14 that year. But in those games, Jamar Chase averaged 63 yards per game. He had 1 touchdown. He had about 5 catches per game. He had 6.5 targets per game in those games. It's just not enough. And this goes back to 23. It has largely continued this year. The one exception when, incidentally, Jamar had a big game the last time Jake Browning started for a long time for the Bengals was against Jacksonville in an overtime game. The Bengals won 34-31 in 2023. He had 11 catches, 149 yards, and 1 touchdown in that game. So far with Jake Browning this year, in the 2 games Jake Browning started, it's 7 targets, 5 catches per game, but only 36 yards per game. Of course, against Jacksonville, Jamar had a big game again. 14 catches on 16 targets for 165 and a touchdown. But when you have Jamar Chase, who was the number 1 pick in a lot of fantasy leagues, right? I'm maybe not the most in touch with fantasy football this year, James, but I'm pretty sure he had a very high ADP this year and was the number 1 pick in a lot of leagues. That's because that's a player that everyone thinks is going to be able to produce a lot. Doesn't matter who's at quarterback. Obviously, Joe Burrow is going to help Jamar's production. Everyone gets that. Those 2 guys have a connection. But just because it's Jake Browning out there, just because the offensive line is what it is, just because the run game is what it is, just because all these reasons the Bengals aren't as good as they should be, doesn't mean that Jamar Chase should be getting 36 to 60 yards per game, depending on the season you're looking at, the sample size you're looking at with Jake Browning at quarterback.
No. Heck no. Like, that's what Andre Yosevich should have on Sunday, or Mike Gesicki, or someone like that. Like it's sometimes it does not have to be super complicated. And for the Bengals to be in the game on Sunday, they have to be better on offense, like from the jump, and it's got to be consistent, and it's got to be throughout the game. Well, how do you do that? It's pretty simple. It starts with Jamar. It doesn't necessarily have to be all Jamar. He doesn't need 30 catches for an NFL record and all of the yards, and you should target other guys. That's not what either of us are saying. But if there is a path, and the rough part about this week for me, Jake, I saw a path to winning the Minnesota game. I saw a path to winning the Denver game. It's really hard for me to find that path for this Detroit game. It just is. And so whatever that path is, because any given Sunday, right? Whatever that path is, I think starts with Jamar Chase having his best game with Jake Browning at quarterback and having double-digit receptions, not targets, to be clear, and really maximizing what he can do. Doesn't mean they're going to win if that happens, but I think the path, the unlikely path of them pulling off the upset, beating this really talented Lions team, I do think it starts with Jamar Chase and him having the best game he's had, well, since Jacksonville, since their last win.
I can hear everybody in the comments saying, like, they can't have the pre-snap penalties and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, that's also true. It's also true.
Sure. Well,
but,
yeah.
Like, beyond the basics, not having 6 or 5 procedural penalties, pre-snap penalties for a team that in the last 4 years before this season under Zach Taylor had never finished worse than 10th in least penalties per year. This has been a disciplined team. In those last 4 years, they had a year where they were 2nd least in the NFL in penalties, 3rd least in the NFL in penalties, and 2 years where they were 10th least in the NFL in penalties in the regular season. And what we saw from them last week was embarrassing, despicable, inexcusable from a pre-snap penalty perspective. But then once you stay, in 1st and 10 instead of 1st and 15, yeah. I mean, it's got to start with throwing the ball to Jamar Chase when Jamar Chase is open. When they have schemed him open, which they did last week, get him the football. Give receivers a chance to make plays on the ball. Don't throw the ball 3 yards out of bounds. And so Jake Browning obviously needs to play better. That's a big part of this. And I think the penalties are a big part of it too. But there's a reason that all the Bengals fans on social media are talking about, man, can they get a different quarterback? And it's such a big conversation this week. Let's touch on this. We haven't had a chance to do that this week, James.
Let's touch on it.
We've had a short week here in between Monday Night Football and a Sunday game then. So let's make sure we hit that topic. And then, yeah, the defense has its work cut out for it too. We'll have to get there, obviously. It's going to be tough with this Lions offense. So we have some topics to hear here to finish the show coming up next.
Today's show is brought to you by Square. Your favorite neighborhood spots? Well, they run on Square. There are certain businesses that truly make the neighborhood feel like home, whether it's the local sports bar packed on game day, the coffee shop that knows your order by heart, or the corner deli that's been serving your community for decades. These are the places that bring people together. When neighborhood businesses thrive, the whole neighborhood thrives. And that's why if you're going to Goodfellas to get a slice, maybe you're getting a pint at Mad Tree, going to Shake Shack, which is one of T. Higgins's go-tos, or maybe having some wine at Park Pour, one of my go-tos, the root beer stand. The point is that the local spots in Cincinnati, they use Square. Square is a proud partner of more than 4 million neighborhood businesses around the world. You can go to square.com/go/LockedOnNFL to learn more. Again, that's square.com/go/LockedOnNFL to learn more. But before you do, support your favorite neighborhood spot. You'll be happy you did. Square. See you in the neighborhood.
We're also brought to you today by Mazda. Mazda's moving the game forward. For those who believe it's not just about playing the game, it's about redefining it. There are moments that do more than put points on the board. They move crowds, they move culture. They keep moving the game forward. And the Bengals desperately need a moment that moves the game forward for them. They haven't had one since week 2 against Jacksonville. This team is spiraling right now. They desperately need to find that attentiveness to detail that we always talk about with Mazda, and a way to move the crowd in their second home game of the season, a way to hang with the Detroit Lions, because when you follow what moves you, the unexpected is only the beginning, and the Bengals need to be unexpected this week. Just like there's more to every highlight, there's more to a Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved.
All right, Jake, let's talk about this quarterback issue. And look, it is an issue. And I think that there are some people that are going to say, well, yeah, well, the offensive line and this and that. And well, obviously, if the Bengals could get an offensive lineman that would help them right now, wouldn't we say, hey, go get him? Like if it was obvious, if there was a clear cut, I think both of us would be on board with that. It's been our logic. Same thing with the defense, same thing with any of the weaknesses. I certainly think that there are quarterbacks out there that could be had that are probably available via trade, not on the free agent market. I don't think there's any there, but Russell Wilson is better than Jake Browning. And I don't think some people want to wrap their head around that, but he would give the Bengals a better chance to win. I think it's pretty cut and dry. He makes a lot of people don't realize what he has left on his deal. He's $2 million for the rest of the season. So he's cost effective, not under contract next year. If you brought him in on Wednesday, and it's Thursday as we're recording this, if you brought him in on Wednesday, I thought realistically you could have him start the Pittsburgh game. That's why I've really pushed for it this week, is because it's going to take a little bit for him to realistically be more effective and learn the offense and all of those things. But other people have thrown out Jameis Winston. Obviously, there's the Kirk Cousins thing, which I think is a complete non-starter because the contract is crazy. But I'm in on the Russell Wilson experience. I think he's better than Jameis. I think he's more affordable than Jameis. He's not under contract next year, which I think the Bengals would prefer. And most importantly, I think he's an upgrade from Jake Browning, which we're talking about Jake Browning not being able to get Jamar Chase the football. That's an unbelievable sentence. And yet that's been the case. So yeah, I would be in on a quarterback. I don't think the Bengals are, but they should be, because if Jake Browning sucks again on Sunday, they're going to be up a creek and not have any other answers in anyone to turn to.
It'd be nice to have a more watchable offense, which I think Russell Wilson achieves for you. I don't think Russell Wilson's very good, to be fair. I don't think that he's going to suddenly make this offense good, but he does still do some things well, and he's certainly seen a lot of NFL football. The biggest question, I think, when I see this discussion, James, and to be fair, I've come around on it a little bit. Like if you could get it for virtually free,
yeah,
and I don't know what the cost would be. If you could get it for say send a 6th and get Russell Wilson back and a 7th, do it with a pick swap. Sure, you can convince me of that. You could probably convince me of that if it's just a 6th-round pick. And it's even less than $2 million, by the way, because that's the full salary for Russell Wilson this year. Some of that's obviously been paid out on a weekly basis, so it's a prorated $2 million over the rest of the season, and maybe a bonus involved, so maybe it does get back to $2 million. But either way, the money is immaterial And at least Russ still has a deep ball. At least
Yes.
Russ isn't going to predetermine every single play. Like, this isn't Seattle Seahawks Russ Wilson, and the moon ball isn't what it once was. The moon ball this year, he's putting that ball in harm's way more often than he ever has in his career. A lot of his turnover-worthy throws, maybe all of his turnover-worthy throws, have come on deep passes this year. But if you can give him even the same surroundings that Jake Browning has gotten, you might have some games that look really ugly, but so far we haven't seen a game that hasn't looked really ugly from Jake Browning. And so I totally understand where it's coming from. Like I said, the biggest obstacle to me is like, how much does the needle actually move with Russ Wilson? Like, they probably become more watchable. They probably produce a little bit better. And those things matter. Morale, the locker room, like how much do you value that? How much does it matter in terms of wins and losses? That's what I don't really know. But is it worth finding out? That's a fair question to ask.
Yeah. Look, all I know is Russell Wilson, with George Pickens as his number one receiver, came to Paycor last year and got Lou Anarumo fired, got Jermaine Pratt sent out of town. Like, he did that. And you could say, oh, well, it's because the Bengals defense stunk. Fine. But do I think that moonball could work with T. Higgins and Jamar Chase? Do I think he's going to get more out of those guys than what you're getting right now? Absolutely. T. Higgins is off to the worst start of his career without looking. I maybe I'm wrong on that. Maybe it was his rookie year. I don't think so. I think we're pretty accurate on that, but maybe not. So don't quote me on that. But it certainly feels like it. Certainly feels like he's off to the worst start of his career. And so yeah, anything to jumpstart this offense and give you another option. And I think that's it. Right now, the other option is Brett Rippon or Mike White. And it was fun talking about Mike Flight White, but my goodness, it was fun talking about him when I thought Jake Browning was going to be competent. And he hasn't been competent. And he's facing a defensive front for the Lions that should get after him. Aiden Hutchinson should beat Orlando Brown Jr. and Amarius Mims on Sunday. As much as that sucks to say, he should. DJ Reader should clog up the run lanes and make life tough on Chase Brown. Not that they can run through any gap right now. Did you see that rushing metric from last week? They stink at running through the gaps. Oh, boy. So it's bad everywhere. But, like, what's the solution if you just continue to stink? Like, they're not firing Zach in week 5. Spoiler. And so would I be willing to try it? I would, especially because it would be a late round pick. There's no cost to it from a, like, monetarily. They're $2 million is $2 million. And if it's less than that, great. And maybe it does work. Maybe the moonball does work and the offense does get jump started and they do enough to be competitive. And so is it worth rolling the dice there? I would say so. The Bengals, I think, would say, no, Jake Browning, we're confident in him. And, well, we'll see. We'll see if that's that confidence is going to work out, because right now he's 0-2. And I thought staying 500 with Jake Browning at quarterback, I thought that's what they needed to do. And it's going to be tough to do given the upcoming schedule.
Given that we just saw the Steelers have a much more effective game, and Aaron Rodgers has also seen a lot of football against the Minnesota Vikings than the totally ineffective performance from the Bengals in that game. Like, so Minnesota's a good defense, sure. And they've faced some good defenses with Jake Browning at quarterback. The Jags have kept up their takeaway streak throughout the rest of the season. Jags are 3-1. And Jake Browning managed to help the Bengals win that game and also had some ugly turnovers in the process. The point I'm trying to make here, I guess, is that even though the defenses have been tough, it is not an excuse to look like a non-functional NFL team. And the tricky thing about it, James, is that even if they fixed the quarterback spot and upgraded the quarterback spot and got better at the quarterback spot, there's I'm gesturing wildly for everybody listening, everything else that needs to be better. And that includes the defensive side of the ball and the run game and the offensive line and all these things that we've glossed over a little bit this week because the focus is on the quarterback play on offense. And we'll see how that goes this week. Of course, we'll be ready to break it down on Sunday, but the other side of the ball needs to step up as well. And I think has an even bigger challenge this week, because at least you can point to the the corners for Detroit and say, yeah, they have good safeties, they have good linebackers, they have a good defensive line that's going to get after it. But those corners, I don't know. On defense, I think it's a tougher task. Let's cover that defensive matchup as we finish this preview coming up next.
I'm Cody Rourke from Locked On Broncos, and this episode is brought to you by Peloton. Peloton is shaping the future of fitness with the brand new Peloton Cross-Training Tread Plus, powered by Peloton IQ. This is Peloton's most advanced equipment yet, giving you real-time guidance and endless ways to move, whether you're running, lifting, or you're cross-training with your favorite instructors like Alex Toussaint. It's training reimagined to make your workout more personal. Peloton is built for breakthroughs with features that help you plan, stay motivated, and hit peak performance. You can let yourself run, lift, flex, and go while Peloton handles all the rest. Plus, Peloton IQ provides real-time strength coaching, tracking your progress and suggesting weights that challenge you so you can get stronger. Plus, the new movement tracking camera, it counts your reps and corrects your form in real time, making sure every rep is safer and smarter. So let yourself run, lift, flex, push, and go. Explore the new Peloton Cross-Training Tread Plus at onepeloton.com.
All right, James, let's cover this defensive task this week. A Lions offense that is 30% play action, 10% screen game, 60% in the pass game where they just straight drop back and throw the football. An offense that has multiple running backs that will test you. One of the better right sides in football in run blocking in Penei Sewell and Tate Ratledge. Here we go. Tate Ratledge, a guy the Bengals could have drafted in the second round. And not to take anything away from Jalen Rivers, but we talked a lot about Tate Ratledge for a reason.
Yeah.
Jared Goff has been good this year for the most part. When he's been under pressure, that's where you can get him. Shocker. The quarterback performs worse under pressure. He's actually been pressured, according to PFF charting, on 35% of his dropbacks this year, which suggests that possibility exists if somebody besides Trey Hendrickson would like to win in the pass rushing game. That'd be awesome. But it's a tough test for the Bengals this week. This Lions offense has gone over 30 points in 3 straight weeks, including that 50-plus point drubbing of the Chicago Bears. And the Bengals have been a get-right team this year. So here we go. Tough test.
Best team they've played, best offensive weapons they've played, best offensive line. I mean, Penei Sewell, Taylor Decker. You got and Decker just doesn't practice, but then plays in games now. Like that's the part of his career he's at. But it's tough. It's a tough ask, and it's a tough ask because, like I was talking about, the path to winning. The path to winning is, you get pressure on Jared Goff, you make him make mistakes, you force 3 turnovers. I still think even if that happened, the Lions win because I think they're capable of scoring in bunches. And I was talking to a Bengals defender on Wednesday, and he's going over the layers to this offense. And it starts shockingly, and I'm joking, you got to stop the run. You can't let David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs run all over you. And if they do, well, then it is going to set up the play action. And then they're going to go deep to Jamison Williams and beat you over the top. Or Amon-Ra St. Brown is going to have an explosive play, or Sam Laporta. And that's it. There's just layer after layer. And so the key to beating the Lions or slowing down the Lions offense is making sure Jared Goff has a bad game. And that starts with taking away the run and then getting pressure on him. And those things are just really, really tough to do consistently when they have the best running back tandem in the league. One of them, if not the best. I mean, I love the Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery tandem. I mean, that's an ideal 2025 tandem because they complement each other very, very well. You can use them in a variety of different ways. You can put them both on the field together. And with that offensive line, that run game, and then the weapons on the outside, it's a tough offense to deal with.
Both those running backs are over 240 yards. Both of those running backs, I believe, have significantly more rushing yards than the Bengals as a team this year. How many rushing yards did the Bengals have this year, James? Maybe I'm wrong on that. Maybe it's not quite.
Chase Brown has 136. I don't know. And that's without looking. I'm just doing the math from last week and this week.
Let's just take a quick look at team rushing statistics.
133 for Chase Brown. So I gave him too many.
The Bengals have
Right.
200 rushing yards this year. They are 30 yards per game behind the second worst Pittsburgh Steelers at 80 yards per game. The Bengals are 50 rushing yards per game.
50.
The Lions have two guys,
Averaging
on their team
80.
that are 245 and 271.
Yeah.
Both of the
Wow.
Lions running backs have more rushing yards than the entire Bengals football team.
So they're averaging 60, just to be clear. The Montgomery, I assume, is lower than Gibbs, but
Montgomery is lower, but is averaging 1 yard longer per carry. He just
Per
has
carry.
15 fewer carries.
yeah, no, he's a beast. He's Cincinnati native. Look, that's where it starts. And then if you do that, it's like, all right, well, now you have this thing to deal with. And then if you do that, you have this thing to deal with. And it's really tough for me to see that the defense hold the Lions to what? Under 30?
Yeah, that would be like hopeful to me,
a huge
given what
W.
they've done lately. Yeah.
Yeah, this is one of those weeks for our everydayers. Like, if they had Joe Burrow, I'd be like, well, you got to get to 30, like minimum 30. If you get to 30, you're going to be in the running and have a shot. It's still one of those games. It's just, can this offense that scored 13 points in the past 8 quarters, that's been outscored, this team's been outscored 76-13 over the past 2 weeks, can they go hang 40 on this Detroit Lions team? I mean, that's really the path, is getting into that 30 to 40 point range and finding a way to do that. And so, this definitely needs to be one of those Jake Browning, you never should have cut me games. The Lions obviously never cut him, but like, that's how he's going to play. But even in that game, he was slow. They started a bit slow. Like, I don't think you can do that against this Detroit team, because they're going to make you pay. And by the way, they're going to be aggressive. They're going to go for it. Going back to Monday night, like, Zach Taylor's got to come out swinging and trying to deliver haymakers, jabs, whatever. But if it's 4th and 2, close to midfield, I'd be going for it if I'm the Bengals every time.
They just gave up 500 plus yards of offense to the Denver Broncos. And now you got an offense that's
really good,
significantly better. I have such a hard time finding the path in this game for obvious reasons. The way the Bengals have performed lately, how much better the Lions appear to be, the way the quarterback has played for the Bengals, and the lack of adjustments I feel like we've seen from Al Golden's defense. Like, the only adjustment they've made is, we're going to bench Cam Taylor-Britt as soon as possible, which maybe is deserved. But Cam Taylor-Britt removed from that game after 5 snaps against the Denver Broncos because he got torched. But like, that's the adjustment we've seen the Bengals make on defense. Still sending a lot of replacement pressure, still have linebackers going under blocks, still have all these issues all over the place. And like, can they find an adjustment this week that works against Detroit? You can't just sit there and play a bunch of man against Amon-Ra St. Brown, against Jared Goff. Jared Goff has some of the best numbers, if not the best numbers in the NFL against man coverage. So finding some sort of adjustment, if you're Al Golden in this defense, like, I'm pretty far out on all of the new coaching hires right now that Zach Taylor brought in to try to salvage this thing after they decided that some of their position coaches were the issue last year. And I'm still waiting to see any signs of life from any of the units that have new coaches this year. And that obviously includes the entire defense that keeps trying the same thing and it keeps not working.
Yeah. So the path is defensively, honestly, it's probably pressures and stop the run, get a few turnovers. Offense, you got to score, and you got to score in bunches and be the complete opposite of what you've been really all season. Like, I know they got to 30 in the Jacksonville game, but really all season they haven't been good offensively. And so that's it. That's all you have to do. Come on, Jake.
That's all.
That's it. Turnovers, stop the run, do all of those things consistently, score consistently, be aggressive, get the ball to your best players. That's all.
I think they'll be lucky to accomplish one of those feats.
Come on.
We got to keep it real sometimes, man.
I know. I'm trying to find the path that orange and black brick road is it's tough to find right now.
Any given Sunday stuff. The Bengals play their first of 3 or their second of 4 in a row, not Sunday 1 o'clock starts. It's a late afternoon start against Detroit at home, a late afternoon start in Green Bay, then Thursday night in Pittsburgh as they continue this featured stretch that the network sure wish Joe Burrow was playing quarterback for. And, well, frankly, so do we. But that's going to do it for this episode of the Locked On Bengals podcast. We're back with you after the game on Sunday. Until then, thanks for listening and have a good one.